In the current era of MMORPGs, there appears to be two strands of MMO emerging. The first, the MMOs that are dedicated to pushing the technological boundaries of what we've seen so far, potentially seeking to reinvent the wheel, or at least push us on towards the next horizon. The other, however, seeks a resurgence towards the more traditional form of MMO. Calling back to the era of games such as EverQuest, this strand seeks to bring a fresher experience whilst keeping those core values of traditional group play and difficult challenges. The MMO that we'll be looking at today, however, has elements that make it so that it will fall between the two worlds. Eternal Tombs, according to the developers of Triune Studios, will be a massively multiplayer online role-playing game that is for PC only and run by live staff that we will call Tomb Masters. Tomb Masters will shape the player experience by running events and changing the world, giving players a unique experience as they adventure alongside the thousands of other players. The developers also confirm that the game is styled as an action combat MMO, but values the classical elements of exploration and difficult progression to enhance the experience for the player. Coupled with this is what they call the Tomb Master system, an idea in which appears to be that a team of staff members can produce or spawn events in real time. That'll add flavour and uniqueness, as they put it, to the player experience. But rather than talk about these concepts in passing, let's dive into their current content available to review, and see what this up-and-coming MMO has to offer for prospective players. Our initial look into the world of Eternal Tombs is provided by a gameplay walkthrough and demo, which gives us a concise but detailed initial glimpse into the world. The initial UI, as mentioned by the developers, has been kept minimalistic to encourage players to enjoy the premise and the world as a whole. I personally find this very beneficial when going in an action combat setting, especially as I tend to focus on the gameplay and this tends to be hindered by an extensive UI. Travelling appears to be your standard foot and mount sort of system, albeit the zoned instances for the moment are a nature of the development, as the developers say, as they plan for around 30 zones to be available upon release. If developer intentions for a seamless world are achieved, we'll no doubt enjoy the wonderful ability to travel around without those pesky loading screens. If not, the world at the moment looks detailed, with a mixture of varying locales, so the likelihood of enjoyment of the world as a whole is still not going to be wasted. But aside from the world, combat, as mentioned prior, takes after the action combat style of MMO, with the typical notices of movement, swiping auto attacks, dodging, and more. Coupled with there being a short minimalist UI, we also appear to have a line for active or combat abilities, and those for utilities, such as health potions. From what we see so far, the combat appears to be more traditional in its style, rather than blasting through opponents or packs of them. It appears that mob difficulty will likely slow the experience down to what we've seen in more traditional games. No doubt this mix of traditional difficulty with action combat might draw in some and turn others away, but I think it's a refreshing little mix to the standard environment, especially where player skill could be utilised to a greater effect with the faster paced combat. Turning away from combat, players of the artisanal arts will be glad to know that the functional aspect of crafting will be an impact to the game, with the examples being given in the demo of a system of upgrading items by adding those upgrades to presumably further systems of crafting for every other aspect. A key note that was brought up was the influences that crafting resources have as an impact on the end product. The better the quality used, the better the outcome, and vice versa. I personally enjoy the idea of adding crafting quality into games, as it adds a level of depth to the game that a crafter can experience, and also incentivizes exploration and collaboration to obtain those rarer resources. Sure, you could go ahead and make that basic standard armor, but who doesn't like the experience of refining all those items down into the process of making the best item possible? But with the idea of crafting, combat, and the world in mind, the final point I'd like to raise today is arguably the game's best selling point, and the one system that has keenly caught my eye. The Tomb Keeper system, in Triune's own words, is a system where Tomb Masters are live staff members who help shape your experiences with dynamic and unique events. They build out events in real time and help shape solo, group, guild, or server play. Personally, I treat this sort of description as potentially like an in-house dungeon master, an entity that is able to enter the world and change experiences, or provide new or alternate encounters for the benefit of the player. My description, however, is not likely to do their own any justice. From the footage that we have, with both the back-end elements and their effects on the world, these Tomb Keepers are able to select the sort of experience they want to provide via their own service menu before it pushes out to the world with an actual effect. As well, they have been shown to not only deal these out selectively to servers and worlds, but to push the event out to the entirety of their servers in unison. In theory, this means that the servers that have a higher population could be subject to more specific or frequent encounters to keep their populations engaged, whilst the global events can be done on a consistent basis to keep content throughout the entirety of the player base. I feel that this element to the game will be the linchpin to its success, providing players content with a dynamic, active focus that is not unlike systems that have a dynamic events themselves, but also to customize, tailor, and then spread these experiences across their active player base, which will do wonders for keeping players active and engaged in the game. Whilst we can only make assumptions for the moment regarding the end result, Eternal Tombs has certainly piqued my interest with its aesthetic and the direction that the studio wishes for the game to take. In the unique mixture of the old and new, the feel for the game has certainly got that unique tilt in the direction that it feels like it could be a hit with either audience, be those looking for a niche action combat MMO, or those looking for the difficulty and experience that came with the older, traditional giants of the scene. From the footage that we've had shown to us so far, the premise and concept is good, although we naturally need to take this with a pinch of salt, seeing as the available evidence is naturally from a development rather than live action or live service productions. The core concepts and rationales for them are sound. The potential gameplay loop seems like it would be interesting, and the secondary features and allowances such as potential crafting depth would do well in giving players more agency and less hand-holding. Coupled with the potential of their Tombkeeper system and its potential to provide a unique challenge to the selected server at hand or to the player base as a whole, it seems like the passion behind the game has dripped into its very foundations. It appears that their key interest is to provide a player experience as enjoyable as they are finding with creating the game. In good fortune as well, and in keeping with the spirit that Triune seems to be providing, the game is actually opening up for pre-alpha sessions on a completely free basis on April the 2nd, as at the time of this video, with no NDA attached. I've already signed up to the process, and it will likely form the basis of my further thoughts going down the line if I manage to enjoy the experience as a whole. And if this game has interested you, I'd suggest put yourself forward for the process on their website, which will be linked down below. But what are your thoughts on this potential MMO on the horizon? Do you think it will work well, or leave something to be desired? Let me know in the comments down below. Once again, this has been Rivalry, and until next time, take care.